Welcome to a new episode of Mind Your Mind. My name is Roxana Parra Sepulveda. I'm your host, and I'm thrilled today to be with Marcela Orraca. She is the Executive Director of Imaginalco, an organization dedicated to promoting the development of the capabilities of children, adolescents, and young people in Malinalco, a small town in central Mexico, to choose and live a life they value. She has a degree in international relations, a teacher in rural development, and has more than 15 years of experience working with children and youth in social organizations. She has trained with Christian Herreman in the Triple Stance framework, along with the rest of the team in Imaginalco, and they have sought to make this methodology the basis for intervention work and institutional design. I am particularly excited to be talking with Marcela in this episode because you already know a little bit about the triple stance. We have been talking with Christian Herreman in other episodes, but this time Marcela will bring the element of implementation and the use, will deepen the information in terms of the use of the triple stance and how that methodology to work within organizations and within teams can support the well-being of frontline workers and the prevention of burnout, which is the main core idea at the very beginning, when Christian was thinking in originating this methodology called the Triple Stance Framework. So I'm sure you will enjoy. Thank you for being there, and thank you for listening. Welcome, Marcela. It's so good to have you today. How are you doing?
Thank you, Roxana. I'm doing good. It's really good to be here. Thank you for having me, and excited to talk with you.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'm very excited as well. And please tell us, where are you in the world at the moment?
At the moment, I am in Malinalco, which is a small town in Mexico, near the center of Mexico. And this is where I work, and this is where I am right now.
And you will be telling us a lot about your experience at work and the organization that you're leading. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about the organization and what you do in the organization?
Sure. It's called Imaginalco, and we created it 10 years ago. We started working with young people and children from disadvantaged families in this town, Malinalco, and we've been working with them since 10 years ago. It's a work of being here for them, listening to them, and helping them find the tools that they need to create and live a life that they consider worthy and that they feel passionate about.
And what brought us here today together to this point and to have this episode is that we have been working with Christian Herreman, and we have been working and thinking about the triple stance framework for a while now. You have been there in Malinalco, I'll be here in London, Christian is in France. Our audience is already familiar to a certain degree with the triple stance framework. And we have been talking about different applications of the triple stance framework, considering that it was developed originally to support burnout prevention for frontline workers, no? But today we will be hearing about your experience and how you have been using the triple stance framework and how it's been helping as well, you know, your team and the work you do and the work the organization is doing. So what is the context in which you use the triple stance framework?
So we approached Christian to learn about the triple stance framework in the context of looking for a methodology and a way to speak and to talk about the things that we do and how we do them. Imaginalco is it's made of people from different formations, different experiences, different even currents of psychology. So it was becoming, as it started growing, when we started, it was easy because it was 2, then 3 of us. But then as it started growing and we started integrating people with different backgrounds and experiences and academic formations, it started to become difficult or challenging to find a common ground. So we were looking for this, and that's how we came to Christian. And he started training us in the triple stance framework, and what we discovered is that it's a common language for people who do not have necessarily a psychology background.
But they're still frontline workers, right? They are still
frontline workers.
In the front line, supporting people that are experiencing very difficult circumstances, right?
Exactly. The whole team of Imaginalco that does this part of frontline work, some of them did have a psychological background, formation and professional training. But most of us didn't, including myself. So the triple stance framework has been an introduction to the world of psychology, a common language with the rest of the team, and a guidance, a path, or to show us or to propose tools to work with the people, to work with the families, to work with the kids, to work with the youngsters, and also to work with each other as a team.
How interesting. It's very important as well, no? Because normally our vision is outwards towards our patients, our service users, our clients, but actually very little sometimes it is the view and the eyes inwards in terms of how the organizations are functioning and how what is the communication and how we are communicating within teams, no?
So, and in that sense, we've started. We understand the triple stance framework as a model of the mind, as a model of the brain, of how people work and think and work and collaborate. And so we use it right now, not just for the interventions, which we do, but also for the general functioning of the organization. And with this, I mean how we plan our meetings, or how we evaluate our work, or how we hold conversations with each other, or how we talk about a conversation that we held with a boy, or with a girl, or with a family.
So it works at a cognition level, but at metacognition level as well, like thinking about we're thinking, no, and talking about what we're talking, in that level as well. That's
exactly the word, a meta model, to talk about how we think, how we act, and how we feel.
And so and the question is how and when, no? You were saying for planning meetings, for those conversations that are happening within the team, and the central aspect of all of this comes as collaboration, no? One of the aspects of the triple stance framework. Do you want to expand a little bit more on that?
Collaboration in the sense of planning a meeting, for instance, no, and how we make sure that in the meeting the times are taken care of, the schedules of the different people who have to be in that meeting are taken into account. The meeting has a sequence, and it has a structure. But also we make sure that the meeting has some moments where we will be checking on the emotional aspect of people. How are we coming into that? How are we checking in to the meeting? And what is this meeting making us feel? What are we feeling when we hear about this family or this young boy or this story, no? And then also we make sure that the meeting leads us to mentalization, to think together, to be a mentalizing community. So how do we assign the spaces so that we can reflect and not just talk about the things that happen, but also how we connect them in our mind to learn about them, how we understand or how we hypothesize about why is this happening, or what can we do about it, and how can we think about it together. So that's an example of how we plan a meeting, making sure that the meeting or the session has different spaces and moments and activities even to give space for all these things that will be happening in our mind.
Yeah, to acknowledge them as well, and give them voice, not to these different aspects of the human experience actually as well, no? And what resonates and something that I really like about the Triple Stance framework is this sense of togetherness, in which we go into that place of thinking together, and how beneficial that can be. You know, there are so many other instances in which we can see that, but in the work of supporting others, when that starts to happen within a team, it is my impression that it becomes more cohesive, that we can work in a way where we can create synergies and to be more aligned in a way, you know, where the decisions, for example, about what to do and how to do them are coordinated too.
Yeah, of course.
So it's a sense of coordination, not only at the level of we're thinking together, but also behaviorally, no? And at
behaviorally.
At a level,
And I would add even emotionally.
Yes.
Someone is listening to what I'm feeling. And so I feel less alone because my team is there, and I have a space where I can say I feel frustrated about this, or this event makes me sad, or it makes me worried. So it's also togetherness at that level.
Yes, absolutely. So, and what comes to mind as well is that although we are thinking together and there is this element of togetherness, we don't lose sight of the individual within the team, no? So it is recognized that each emotion represents what is happening for that person, and
Totally.
and it doesn't mean that the whole team feel the same way.
No.
But it is very much to acknowledge the individuality within the group as well, no?
Yeah. The individuality, but the emotional support. Maybe I'm not feeling that tired or that sad because I'm not that close to that specific person. But I hear you. I acknowledge that you're feeling this, and you know that I know, and that makes you feel a little more supported, a little less alone, even though I don't need to be feeling the same. And we usually don't.
No, we don't.
Sometimes we do share a feeling when we listen to a situation that's very complicated for family or a person that's very close, well, it's common that all of us share feelings of I'm worried or I'm sad or I'm disappointed. But we leave it. We know that it's not the same. We know that it's a subjective experience.
Yes.
And we're not trying to change that. We know that, but the fact that we open these doors or spaces for the emotions, it has this effect of being of sharing and feeling support, but it also has an effect, a cognitive effect, because talking about how we feel and naming the feelings that helps us think about the situation differently and take into account elements that we wouldn't take into account if we had this idea that, feelings stay somewhere else and we come to work to be objective. And that's not how the human experience works. We are with our feelings as well. So if we name them and if we talk about them in group, they teach us things. They teach us things about how we are working, how we are intervening, or how we are hypothesizing about what we do, because our feelings are speaking as well.
Absolutely. And we tend to work in a way that, as you're saying, that is more disconnected from the feelings, and it depends as well. I imagine, I don't know if you notice that we are thinking about different cultures as well. You're in Latin America, and there is this common idea, looking at it from the UK, that Latins are more connected with their emotions, or they will be more expressive with their emotions. But I'm not sure about that, really. And it's very, and that's the is an assumption, no, of how Latin Americans are. But really, in the work that we are doing, there is a lot of tendency to be more in the thoughts, in the mind, in the as you were saying, speculation, maybe hypothesizing, and trying to bring new hypotheses and new ideas to what's going on, maybe think about what to do, but it almost as if it stops there and don't allow the expressions of feelings as well, and understand how the feelings and the sensations that we are doing are also feeding in the assumptions that we are doing about the cases.
Of course.
And therefore, the decisions and the way that we are looking at the case, no?
Totally. Yeah, and sometimes we do not realize that.
Yes.
But it's always there. Because it's in our mind. It's happening. You're feeling angry.
Yeah.
At the person who didn't show up for the third time.
Yes. You may feel frustrated and so on.
Yeah, disappointed. So the decision of the intervention, if you try to ignore the conversation around it, could be, I'm frustrated, I'm angry, he hasn't showed up, this is it. This is the last time.
Yeah,
that was the last time. We stopped this work with this person. But if you open it, then others in your team can see things that you don't, because they're not angry as you are. So maybe the decision is going to be different because it's going to be taken in group together. But also your team is there to take care of you. So opening up these spaces to talk about the feelings constantly permits us to take care of each other, because we can see when a caregiver is constantly mentioning to feel overwhelmed or frustrated, and the rest of us are looking at the situation and seeing, well, it's maybe not that complicated, what's going on, then there's there's an alarm,
like a red flag, we call it
like
here.
a
Yeah,
flag.
the
Yeah,
alarm
at
that you're
least a
saying.
yellow flag, no?
Yes.
At least a yellow flag
Uh-huh.
that will make us turn around and look at this person and see if, well, maybe he needs to let go of this case. Maybe he needs to take a few days off. Maybe he needs to talk a little more in a one-to-one place. Maybe he needs to have fun. Let's do something fun, or let's suggest him to do something fun in his free time, you know, so we can take care of each other.
Yes, and that's such an important point, because one of the factors that we are keeping in mind while you're talking in every episode of the podcast is really the impact and the potential impact of witnessing the suffering and the pain, psychological and physical pain of the people that we are supporting, and how important then is to sometimes, most of the time, I shall say, pay attention, no? To those yellow flags that you are talking about, in the sense of signs that sometimes we may not notice for all sorts of reasons, but that our colleagues and can, you know, let us know, can notice for us, no? And in that way, it becomes, as you were saying, a very useful caring space as well.
Yeah.
So
yes.
So in that sense, I'm thinking about as well, no, that important role of the triple stance framework as a mean to prevent burnout.
Of course, it is. It is in different ways, because we're taking care of the different needs that a person has. No, so we take care of at the collaboration level. We take care of, for example, their time, no? And their schedules and the different activities that they have. No, we check if there's a fair or a good distribution of the things to do, no? And that not one person is taking up too much activities or tasks. So that's at the level of collaboration of the square, no? That Christian talks about the square for this level of context, culture, collaboration.
Yes,
So
the C dimension.
agreements, the C dimension. And then for the emotional dimension, the circle, it's what we've been talking about. We open up, we give a space to talk about the feelings. So on one hand, that makes us feel supported, less lonely. It makes us feel seen, and that's nice. That's always nice. And then on the other hand, it helps us monitor each other and look at each other and see, and if someone needs a specific support, or to rest, or to talk a little more. So that's the second dimension in which we can take care. And then the mental dimension, the mentalization, to know, to feel, and to discover that you have a team with whom you can think together and create strategies and find solutions and explore, is very comforting, because you feel the problems that we deal with can feel overwhelming.
Yes.
And that experience of being able to talk at this level, at the level of really analyzing, thinking, and trying to learn about what you're doing, about how we are intervening, how we are working with the people, it's very comforting, because you feel like I have a team with which we're working together to solve this problem. And so that's also taking care, creating the spaces, giving the time and the tools that we need to have the spaces to really go deep into how we work and understand and explore. And that's also very important in how we take care of each other.
Yes. And you're making me think about how, for example, from the collaboration angle, we know that workload, all what you were talking about, you know, how the work is distributed within the team. There are so many things that the managers also can do to support that, no? That the workload is workable. Is not creating this, because the overwhelming sensation also not only comes from the emotional angle, in the sense of the situations I'm witnessing are too painful, but also comes from, for example, there is so much to do, there is so many cases I need to be attending, that then it becomes overwhelming in that sense as well. So I think workload is a big aspect, a big element of how organizations can think about the distribution of their work, and how then in that way they can support the prevention of burnout and over, you know, working in these overwhelming environments.
Yeah, and it's hard sometimes because we are operating with not
many
resources. So we don't have the full staff that we would need to make sure that the workload isn't too heavy for anyone. No? So sometimes it is, but it's also something that we have to keep on learning and improving, because it does affect
Yes.
how people feel and how people work.
Yes.
And it has to do also not only with how you distribute activities or tasks or workload, but also the tools that you have. And I'm thinking technological tools even, to help people organize themselves and have the tools to prioritize and to be able to decide, okay, this is more important than this, so this is what I'll focus on today. And if if it doesn't get done, I'll try tomorrow, but it's not that bad.
Yes.
So that's also part of what we are trying to do to help everyone in the team understand what are the priorities and what should we be prioritizing, and including in their schedules explicit times to do the the backstage work, the administrative, the writing down what we did, or the
taking,
notes, the preparing of a written document for something, and that's sometimes it takes more time than what you thought, so you need to take into account that when you're creating a schedule. And sometimes that leads you to see, well, we can't do this activity because no one in the team has the time. So we're gonna have to push it for the next term or let it go, because we don't want to overload our team with too much work, because that is also that doesn't take care of people.
No, exactly. Yeah. It's counterproductive, I think is the word. Like basically, it undermined the productivity of the whole organization in the end. No, it's this like having to be in this pace where everything is have to be done in certain ways that in the end overwhelmed people. And the other element that you were mentioning with regards to the importance of having those reflective spaces, and that importance of being seen, being understood, and being responded somehow, no? And is that the I
Yeah.
see you, I hear you, I understand you. What do we do about it?
Exactly. Exactly. And as you were saying at the beginning, to do that in a group. So your group, your team becomes your safe base.
Yes.
Because it's a place where you can return to with your ideas, and they will help you to continue to explore. But they're there. Your base is there. You can come back and say, this is how I'm feeling. I don't know what to do. We need ideas. This is working very. Also, the good things. Sometimes we have a very good day and we would like to share it with someone.
Yeah, exactly.
So also sharing what we did right.
What went
That's
well.
also taking care
Yes.
of what went well. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
What we're proud of.
Yeah, you make me think about our colleagues in Spain, Samperi and Fuensalida. They do talk about the social secure base. No, they work in the multifamily therapy environment, and but they are, thinking of when they talk about the social secure base, they are talking about how the group become that secure base that you're talking about, no? And therefore is that a space where people feel that they can go to with their strengths and their successes, but also with their vulnerabilities.
Yeah. And it's sometimes with some people it's difficult. There are some people who are very used to working alone, or who have a hard time trusting in others. And what we've seen is that those people are the people who get more tired emotionally, but they don't talk about it. And it's very challenging, because some people come to Imaginalco and find these places where we talk about how we feel and we listen to each other and we reflect together, and it's very natural for them and they really like it and they open up easily. But some people, because of the culture, because of how we grew, how we've done things before, it's not as easy to open up our feelings or to trust others or to say, I don't know what to do, I need ideas, or to say what I did was it didn't work.
Yeah.
I thought it would, but it didn't. And that's an exercise, to like a constant exercise in Imaginalco, to find ways in which the people who feel, relate, and think differently, or more by themselves, can open up to the team, because they bring in very valuable and very important things to the team. Absolutely. But they also could receive from the teamwork, from having a group there, that even if you are the most experienced one in the team, even if you usually have the most answers, even then you can benefit from listening to others and from letting others share the burden.
Yes, even if the burden that you're carrying. Yes.
The burden that you're carrying.
Yes.
And the burden of having the right answer always. That's tiring.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Feeling that you always need to know what to do about something, because you're the expert.
But that's such an important aspect, because we, at least in the field of psychology, no, we do through our studies, it is we are encouraged to maintain certain kind of boundaries And we are understanding that with our clients, we do need to respect certain boundaries. But my point here is not about the relationship of the therapist client relationship or therapist patient relationship, but the positioning of the psychotherapist, for example, within multidisciplinary teams. No,
totally.
In which we all in our respective fields are carrying an invested power that comes with that training we did, all those titles and all those certificates that are hanging on the wall, that also feed our ego and our sense of power in a way. And it sounds to me a very humbling kind of experience as well, to be able to relate to your colleagues in a way that on the one hand you can learn from them, but also they can learn from you. But it's not only they can learn from you, and as you were saying, not only always give or have the right answer, no, but be in that vulnerable place as well, or allowing yourself to be in that vulnerable place.
Allowing yourself to say, I don't know.
Yes.
I don't have an answer. Does someone else have?
Exactly. Anybody?
Anybody here, please? We've tried everything, no?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. And it's interesting because with all this continuum of from thriving to burnout, we tend to see as well how people start to isolate more and more and more. There is like almost a vicious cycle in which a sense of not being effective enough becomes at the front head. No, is there, is quite present, and that feeds a sense of inadequacy, maybe shame, and so on, a long list of feelings, and leads then to a sense of disconnection and cynicism, developing of all sorts of ways of, in a way, coping with this difficulty that we have to hold, but that we are not being able to process and to share and to
and it leads to damage. It damages the relationships in the team, because it's very difficult that ourselves can say, I'm having burnout, or I'm very tired and frustrated with myself. It's more common that we take it out on the team, like they're not helping me, they're giving me too much work, or he's doing it wrong, so that's why it's not working, or like it's, or that maybe not even explicitly, but we are in a bad mood. We're not feeling good, and that
we're having a bad day.
We're having a bad day, or we're having a bad time because we're tired emotionally, and we are not being capable of processing all these emotions because there are too many, because there's too much work, because it's too hard. So I'm cranky all the time, and so my team feels it, and it's not nice, but it's also understandable. And it's the challenge, of finding the tools and the spaces and the languages that allow different people to recognize their vulnerability and name it and seek for help or accept the help. And that's a work of life, I think. Absolutely. Because even though you were saying before that Latins have the fame of being more emotional, but I don't think we have the fame of showing more the vulnerability. And especially Latin men. And so it's it's a work of life, I think, to learn to be vulnerable and to share it and to name it and to learn from it and to let others learn from it as well.
Absolutely. And I think this also take us sort of full circle in the sense of what is the usefulness and the importance of having that theory of mind from which we are operating as a team, because that, as you were saying to start with in this conversation, give us that common language. And in a way, that common language is what facilitates and gives the base, no, for us to be sort of coming from the same place in a way.
Yeah. And it gives us the words, the words that we need when we are talking about feelings. Well, we know that feeling okay is not a feeling, you know. So what are the emotions that you're feeling? Name them, no? So, and that's something that we have been trying to work a lot with our team, because we're supposed to do that with the children and with the families. To help them identify and talk about their feelings, their emotions. But it's difficult when we have a hard time doing it ourselves.
Absolutely. And so
it's an exercise. It's exercising
is yes, and I hear you. And also is an exercise that is increasing our capacity to verbalize, because sometimes to put words to certain sensations or feelings is very difficult, no? So to have those words comes handy then when you want to express a feeling, a sensation, a situation, or describe something that will be then easier for everybody to understand in a way, no?
And sometimes some words are easier. For example, it's easier to say, I'm concerned. I feel concerned. It's easier to say that than to say, I'm scared. There's fear behind this concern. There's fear. That's a basic emotion that I'm feeling about this case. So there's like these, but fear is it's a stronger word, and it moves. When we say I'm scared or I feel fear, it moves things in the team, and so it makes us pay attention. Concern is like a more detached way of saying it, you know, like more in the mind. That exercise of bringing it to the heart and really exploring what you're really feeling, it's so enriching for the work in the team, and for the work with the people that we work with.
Yeah, absolutely.
It changes how we approach a situation, because it invites the other parts of ourselves to participate in the decision, in the action, in the exploration. And that's very enriching
and profound.
That's profound.
Yeah, and what I'm hearing as well is that this is an approach that Imaginalco is an organizational approach to the work. It's not only the group, the work of a small group. You are taking it to an organizational level. And more and more here in the podcast, we have been thinking about how the organization's as well responsibility to work towards these preventative measures to prevent burnout, these ways of working that will help and support the maintaining of resilience, the reduction of anxiety, the possibility to prevent more complex presentations in our teams, for people to burn out and leave, because we see a lot of rotation as well of staff, and that's because so many times the circumstances in which they are working are really not working.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it is a challenge for the organization as a whole. And it's how do you balance the different elements that imply taking care of someone that works in the organization. And also how you, it's interesting because sometimes, or when we started having these spaces for supervising the cases, the intervention. So a person presents a case that they've been working on. So a situation that a conversation that they had or whatever with the person that we're working with. So, and the rest of the team comment. We all share how we feel when we listen to that story or that situation, and then we comment through the 3 dimensions, what we observe in the intervention from each of the 3 dimensions. And so from there we propose what could we do. We also propose what could have been done better in that intervention, which is really easy. It's easy to say what you should have done when you're looking at it from the future,
from the
but
experience.
It's also, but it's also you learn from that. So we do that exercise, but it's difficult that especially the least experienced people in the team, that they feel very anxious and very worried about presenting a case. So how do we take care of this space to make sure that the people feel it as a place where I can share how I feel and I can get help for a case, instead of the team is gonna evaluate and supervise how I'm working. And they're gonna see my mistakes and they're gonna talk about them. And it's really hard because it is sharing, opening up your work for others to look at with
how do you say it? Con una lupa in Spanish.
Con una lupa.
But it's the the
microscope.
Like a micro, to look at something like with a microscope. That's something that help us to see it bigger and expanded. Yeah,
exactly. You're gonna have 5 or 6 people in your team looking at your intervention with a microscope to see what you did right, what could have been done better, what's going on in the dynamic, in the relationship between you and that girl, for example.
Yes.
And so sometimes we've felt that these spaces increase the anxiety instead of reducing it. So we've been trying to change things in how we hold these reunions or these meetings, so that people start to feel them as a help, as a space to open up and to share and to learn.
It's a safe, reflective space,
not to be judged.
Yes, because we know as well that when our emotions are very high, it's more difficult to be reflective. No. And to go
also because of that, but also because we want to help reduce the stress.
Exactly. Yes.
So we want people to be less anxious, less stressed.
Yeah.
But we also want to hear about what people are doing, and we want to know how they're intervening, and we want to know if there's flags that we need to attend to. Flags in terms of the relationships, the way they are relating with the people from the community.
Absolutely. And also I imagine that will then feed protocols and procedures and so on. We are reaching towards the end of our episode today, Marcela, but we always give a call for action. I'm hearing two sides here in terms of the call for action. Could go into what organizations can do to facilitate the development of these safe, reflective spaces for their teams. And on the other side, I'm also thinking what teams could do to actually incorporate some of what we have been talking about today, and start to use it in the sense of to enrich the way that they are working with their cases. I will leave you to choose the angle that you want to give to your call for action today. But I'm feeling and I'm hearing that we are talking about these interconnected elements, no? The context that the organization gave us, but also the way that we work within our teams.
Yeah. So
the call for action is normally like one step or one action that they can do.
I would think that one very useful thing for creating these spaces where people can share and learn from what they're doing is making sure that they include a specific and explicit moment for talking about what we're feeling, how this situation makes us feel. But also I would encourage organizations to make sure that people from different that have different jobs in the organization and even different levels of responsibility share. So me as a director, I sometimes share my work, and the people in my team comment on my work.
I see.
It's not a group supervising another one, but the whole team supervising each other, monitoring how we are and sharing how we feel. So that's what I would suggest, that we include people from different levels of responsibility in these conversations, and that people from different levels of responsibility are encouraged to share their vulnerabilities, their challenges, and to listen to their team.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. You make me think about horizontality in the approach to the work, no? And less pyramidal in terms of the division that there is between senior management, middle management, and frontline workers. It seems to be, from what I tend to see quite often, is that there is a lot of distance between senior management and frontline workers, and that exchange and interconnection is not felt, is really not existent in a way, no?
And it's a challenge because of the time.
Yes.
The time burden.
Yes.
And you have different responsibilities when you're a senior manager. But I think it's worth it to give the time to listen to these conversations and to be part of.
Yeah.
And to let your team listen to you as well.
Yeah.
In the language of the feelings and the challenges and the vulnerability.
Yeah, and it sounds to me as well that there is that element of that common language that will be from the emotions, the vulnerability, what you're saying. No, that's the clue. That's like the key to enter this space in which we then think about it together after we have shared our emotions. So we come into these spaces much less defended as well, no? With our defenses a little bit lower, and that enrich the interaction. Yeah, more open. Well, thank you so very much, Marcela. I just want to remind all our people out there listening to this episode that if you feel there is anything in it that you want to share with your team that you feel is useful, it could be useful for your manager and other colleagues, just please share it and help us to help by sharing this information. We don't know who will help, and it's all in the name of preventing secondary traumatization and burnouts, and not only in the individuals but in the organizations as a whole. So thank you for helping me in this process as well, Marcela. I really appreciate your presence here today.
Thank you, Roxana. It's been a pleasure. And thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you so very much. It's my pleasure. I'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.